Hi, this year's Christmas video is called Jesus versus the Jedi. And that's right, we're comparing the Holy Bible to, here are the Star Wars trilogy, and even more specifically, the Star Wars role-playing guide. Because I recently discovered that the fifth largest religion in UK, that's in Britain, the fifth largest religion now is Jediism. That's right. There's more Jedi Knights in England, they put that down as their religion, than there are Scientologists or Wiccans or pagans. Isn't that amazing? And so really, this is a valid comparison here in that respect, that many people base their lives on what this book teaches about the Force and Jedi knighthood. The same way so many people have based their lives, and so many people have actually lost their lives for this book. Either one book is true or the other, but they can't both be. It's up to us to decide. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and move forward with some comparisons. This book was published in 1976, and really the main thing was the movie. Remember the Star Wars movie, and that was also in 1976. And this book was published in the mid-1540s. It was actually the first book ever printed. In fact, the printing press was invented so that this book could be printed. Now, this book is an international bestseller, along with the movies and everything. And this book also is a huge bestseller and has been for thousands of years now, 2,000 years. This book really was written essentially, I mean, it is art, but it was really written to make money, was the primary motivator here. Both on the movie, merchandising. Here I happen to have my Star Wars underwear here, and so this franchise is making tons of money off the book and related movie items. Now, this book, it's not really teaches that the pursuit of money is evil, actually. And meanwhile, it has been used also to make a lot of money over 2 millennia now. The Catholic Church selling indulgences all the way to today's Christian industry, where the sales of this book and related books are bringing in millions and millions of dollars. So there is a similarity. But remember, this book actually teaches that the pursuit of money is evil. So indeed, there are some similarities. They have conventions for either. Star Wars conventions, Christian conventions. There's ticket sales generated by each of these. There's merchandising, apparel, and of course there's collectibles and relics. Christianity has its own form of collectibles these days, and so there indeed are some similarities here. Now, this book has 3 authors, and we would count 4 authors if you want to count the unknown author of the role-playing guide, which really is the source of a lot of the Jedi teachings and, like, for example, the Jedi Code. This book had around 40 authors over a period of around 1,500 years. Now, this book has prophecies in it that are later fulfilled in the same book. And this book, of course, doesn't have that, nor really is there any evidence that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, any of these events actually took place. In fact, this book was written as fiction. And that really brings us to the heart of the matter, which is that in this day and age, for example, recently at Costco, this book was labeled as fiction also. And that's kind of the mindset that we're seeing today, is that most people, or many people, discount this book as a sort of mythology and is of no greater authority in fact than this book here, which is, we know is fiction, was written to be fiction. And so this is the big dilemma. And so let's look at some evidence, some different evidences that this book has that this one certainly doesn't, because this one has zero evidence. No one has ever found a lightsaber, an antique lightsaber, that showed that these things actually possibly happened. There's zero evidence that any of this happened, and that the Jedi religion was written as anything other than a very shallow, really, a fictitious religion. Now this book, there's been over 25,000 archaeological finds which were led to as a result of reading the locations in this book, for example. Another example would be that hundreds, thousands, by now tens of thousands of people have given their lives so that we could be reading this book today, which, by the way, is, even though it is an international bestseller, is currently illegal in about 65 countries worldwide. As far as I know, the Star Wars book has not been banned in any countries. Some of the best evidence is the eyewitnesses that went to their deaths. Now, it's one thing if somebody goes to their death, sacrifices themselves for something they believe, something they've been told. It's a whole different thing, if you think about it, if it's something that they have seen with their own eyes. And so all the original apostles, except for John, were killed for not recanting about something they had indeed seen with their own eyes. Another great evidence is the fact that it's still here. The hammers of skeptics have come after the Bible now for thousands of years, and yet what's the result? This is what the hammers look like, but the Bible stands. It's the best-selling book every week. The New York Times bestseller list doesn't include it because it would be #1 every week. You'd be saying, oh, Charles Krauthammer's new book is #2 on the New York Times bestseller list. Why #2? Because #1 is the Bible again this week. Now, this book was written for about a 6th grade reading level, and this book was written for about an 11th grade reading level. If you read, now I'm not talking about the King James Version where you have to know Elizabethan English. No, I'm talking about if you read an NIV, a modern translation, it's at about an 11th grade level, which, by the way, is really beyond more than half of the American population. Another good bit of evidence that would verify, none of this proves the veracity of the Bible, but it does corroborate the veracity, just like evidence in court. Another great evidence is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, that proves that this book has been passed down accurately, at least the old part of it. It's been passed down accurately now for 2,000 years, roughly, at about a 99.6% accuracy, with no changes in meaning. Any of the changes that have happened since the Dead Sea Scrolls were very minor. One version says Jesus, another says Jesus the Christ, for example. And so even though there is, 2 words different there, the meaning is completely unchanged. The Dead Sea Scrolls tell us beyond any shadow of a doubt that we are reading the same Old Testament today that they were reading 2,000 years ago. Some other evidence for the Bible is the events described in the New Testament about Jesus are somewhat verified. He's referred to by extra-biblical sources, for example. And so what I'm saying is, again, some of the events here in the New Testament are corroborated by, for example, Tacitus, the Roman historian, Josephus, the Jewish historian, and Suetonius, another Roman, tells about, virtually corroborates the story of Jesus. There are other religions that are based on movies. There's Matrixism, based on the movie The Matrix, and there's a certain truth to Matrixism. And then there's Dudeism, based on the Big Lebowski movie. You know, Dudeism, excuse me, Dudeism really has no doctrine, because if they did, it really wouldn't be Dudeism, would it? And so, this is not the only one like that. And of course, throughout history, someone always comes along and writes a book that contradicts the teachings of the Bible. Muhammad, Joseph Smith, you know. Now, those books, just like the Great Lebowski and The Matrix and Star Wars, there is no corroborating evidence. None of the places described in the Book of Mormon have ever been archaeologically unearthed or anything like that. Now, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I mean, what kind of person would I be if I knew the ship was sinking, but I didn't say anything? And in my case, I truly believe that we're all in jeopardy of eternal punishment. Now, what kind of person would I be? What kind of jerk would I be if I truly believed that and never said anything? You know, the Star Wars book was written to be fiction, whereas this book, for example, in the very first few verses of Luke, he explains that having carefully examined all the evidence and interviewing all the eyewitnesses, he decided to write down an accurate account of the true events. Dan Brown, the Da Vinci Code, he claims that all the geographical places and historical background in the novel are true, and of course he disproves that on the very first page, and on every page is full of non-facts. The Bible, on the other hand, remember, is corroborated archaeologically by the Dead Sea Scrolls, by prophecy, and on, by the people sacrificing their lives so that we could get the truth, even though everyone else is trying to feed us untruth and even ban this book. You know, I just hope you're not being deceived. I know most of you out there aren't Jedaists, Jedi Knights, or Dudists, you know, although I think there's about 10,000 registered, ordained Dudist priests here in the United States. Amazing, isn't it? But I also hope you're not just following one of those other books, you know, by some guy who claims to have discovered and become enlightened and know better than everybody else before. And, you know, that seems to come up every 100 years or so as another one, and they never stand. And the truth is, none of these other systems, even though they contain truth, and certainly these other religions contain a lot of truths, some beautiful truths, some sublime truths, but they don't contain the whole truth. And there's not a single one of them provides the coherent answer, really, a complete and coherent answer to what all this is going on around us means and what it's about, why the universe and why are we here. This is the real explanation. There's an old saying, old Jedi never die, they just fade away. Well, I sure hope you don't just fade away. I hope you join me and the rest of the Church of True Believers later on in the kingdom. Just seek and follow the narrow path.